Welcome back, everybody. Unfortunately, I forgot my pair of shorts, but I promise I'll bring another pair next time. But welcome back to Nain Shorts, and today I wanted to talk about something that holds everything up that we do: our feet. But before we get that, let's talk about the mechanics that happen up here. And I'm not talking about in fighting, I'm just talking about everyday life. When we go to open a door, when we pick up a glass of water or a mug of coffee, when we're texting. All these things happen and we don't really think about it until we try to walk somewhere and we're really focused on what we're doing up here. Have you ever done one of those when you're really into the conversation, you're really trying to get the text right, and you're stepping like this? Why? Well, because your brain can't do two things at once. It can only focus on one thing. And when you make it apparent that you're really trying to focus on that one thing, everything else that isn't involved in that action becomes secondary. And it's hard for you to really focus on it. But yet, you've been walking your whole life since you were a couple months old, or maybe a year and a half if it took you a little longer. But you've been walking this whole time and doing all these things and playing and throwing a ball and catching things and running to the car with your keys in your hand, trying to unlock your car because you're late for work. But at no point during any of these actions were you thinking of any one specific item. You were just doing something. Like, for example, how many of you know whether you step on your right or your left foot when you get up from your chair? How many of you know how many steps it takes you to get to the bathroom from wherever you are right now? Unless you have OCD, probably none of you. Because you're not really thinking about the mechanical aspect of it. You just want to get somewhere. Your focus is, let me get to this side of the road. Not, okay, if I step with my left foot and then I have to do 18 steps this way, but if I step with my right foot, it's only going to take me 17. Nobody thinks that way. But yet we have to develop a sense of how does this become part of what we do in anything physical. If we look at sports and you look at the mechanics that go along with it, at any given point you see people knees slightly bent. They're supporting their weight and they're kind of just ready to bounce off in one direction or another. Yet when we walk, people have a tendency of locking their knees, then releasing as they step into the next one, as they shift their weight to their foot and back to the other one, and they step even when they go backwards, which is why people look like they bounce up and down when they walk. When you do anything physical, anything strenuous, your knees are always slightly bent, supporting your weight. What does this do mechanically? Mechanically, it allows you to utilize your joints to their fullest. So you have that cushion so you can push off, whether you're down low playing football, whether you're pitching a ball. It allows you to maximize your efforts and give you the best results out of your movements. In fighting, everyone has their knees slightly bent. You don't see them ever lock their knees because they want to keep that pressure. They want to be able to push off. We already know what to do up here mechanically. We can extend and we can move every which way we can. But just like the earlier example, when you're so concentrated on something in your hands that we tell you to move or you have to move, all of a sudden your feet have no idea what they're doing. And you almost have to jump from one to the other in order to get either one of these right. So in our training, the way that we develop in the Bladed Mind, we tell our students mechanically, we're going to work on everything up here first to understand where you need to drop your hand, where you need to come up, and all the things that go along with it. But at our base, we're shoulder width, knees are slightly bent, and we're supporting our weight. So you learn to be balanced in this position while you're doing everything up here. But inevitably we will have to move. And what happens to everyone when this is now asked of them? They start doing this thing, or they start stepping like they're cavemen. Because again, once you focus on it, it becomes difficult to do two different things at once. How do we get beyond that? How do we get into a process where it becomes a natural thing, even though it's already been a natural thing for you, but because it's put in a different context, now all of a sudden you have to think about it differently. And it really is just as simple as understanding the mechanics behind it. What it is that you're trying to do with the bottom half of your body. Up here, you're learning your strikes. Down here, needs to be supported, needs to be strong. Hence the bend in the knees, so you can utilize your joints. Eventually, you start moving. Okay, this is awkward. Over time, oh, I understand. I'm just walking in one direction or another. Something I've been doing all my life, but now I'm doing it in a different context. And once that click happens in your head where you understand that you're not doing anything different than you were outside of your class, now you're just adding something specific, say your striking patterns or your punching patterns. And then the two can happen together in your mind through that understanding, and you just start moving freely. Now in Filipino martial arts, we always reference the triangle footwork. And again, we don't start our students with this. We want our students to first, on their own, get to a point where they can naturally move from one side to the next at their natural gait. Nothing strenuous, nothing stepping over where they need to, maintaining that balance, maintaining that center of gravity for them. And again, for them, none of these ideas are even given to them just yet. Rather, from the very beginning, they were told, okay, knees are always slightly bent, almost like you're straddling, and you're sitting into yourself. And then when you start moving, you maintain that. They have to figure it out on their own because it is their body that has to do it. We can give them all these details later on, but unless they can actually do it, those details are not going to mean much to the student. Once they have a sense of being able to move freely from their own natural walk like you fight, and fight like you walk, then we can start adding the drills, the footwork drills, so they can develop other attributes that can help them along the way. So, triangle footwork. Many of us have heard of it. So let's put down a few sticks, as is the usual. First, we're going to start off with the reverse triangle, or the female triangle. Usually, place on the floor. And again, for us, the tools that we use, including the sticks and even these visuals, are nothing more than references. That's all they are. Because if we do this the way it's supposed to do, we step out, step back in, step out, step back in, step out. Nobody really fights this way. These are just steps. So what is the point of learning something like this? In the bladed mind, it's only a reference point to understand at what point am I overstepping. Oh, this is too far, now I'm leaning forward. Okay, well, my natural gait is here. This is where I should step. Because it's natural, it's comfortable, and it's closest to what I already do naturally. So I'm not gonna go beyond that. Okay, here, oh, I stepped too far, let me okay, now I'm good. So this is the first basic idea, is how can I step and maintain my balance? From our stagnant position, now I'm just stepping forward. Oh, but if I were to pivot, I'm back to shoulder width. I'm back to that original place where I started. So I'm learning to correlate my natural steps into a place of balance. Eventually, as we move on, we start adding a little speed. Now, the speed doesn't coincide with how quickly I can get anywhere. The important part is this: step, step. At first, that's what it is. As simple as our feet come together and then they open apart. But when you add speed to it, it's the switching of your feet. How quickly can I go from a vulnerable position into a position where I'm much stronger, where I can do something? Mechanically, this is more sound. Here, you don't want to find yourself here. So we teach our students how to get out of it as quickly as possible, because you never know when you're going to be attacked. So if you're not ready for it, then everything else you know how to do up here is going to be meaningless. So from here, oh, now we know how to switch. Same thing with the male triangle or the forward triangle. I step in, I step out. Again, this is the most basic idea. No one fights this way, but we learn how to move our feet quickly. We learn how to maintain balance, natural balance with what we have. Other arts will take time to develop the strength, have deep stances to develop the strength, the balance between everything. But unfortunately, we don't all have that time. And if we're thinking about efficiency to application, use what you got. And if your step is just here, that's enough. As long as you know, okay, I'm balanced here. Oh no, I'm leaning. Okay, I need to shift over there. And that's what these exercises allow you to learn of yourself, is at what point am I vulnerable? At what point can I go back to being strong in my base? And your brain is picking up on all these ideas because it's just a step. Just like when you're walking. Again, you can do all the fancy things with the triangle, and you can step, and you can close the triangle, you can go back, you can do the fast feet, and you can add all the details you want to it, but at the end of the day, this is what you're doing. And if you can't make that connection, or if that connection isn't emphasized in the beginning of your training, then of course it's going to be much harder, because now your brain thinks of it as learning something completely new to you, instead of enhancing what you're already capable of doing. And that plays a big part in being able to use then the mechanical aspect of your body, as well as the sensitivity to keep yourself safe. Now I'm going to remove these sticks for now, and I want to bring Rick in here.
Coming, boss.
You guys know Rick? Rick, say hi. No, hi Rick.
Hi, Rick.
There you go. I thought that was going to be funny.
What are you then?
I thought that's what you were going to do. Yeah, it's whatever.
Hi, Rick.
I guess I don't know you as well. Now,
Okay.
I bring Rick here, and
What do we got?
I'm not talking down to him. Please, don't misunderstand. I just want to emphasize how this all is beneficial to what you can accomplish later on. Because my good friend and instructor, Rick, is messed up in so many ways. Sorry, I'm gonna give him some of your secrets.
Great.
Shoulders, he has 6 pins in each one. Has what, 12 surgeries in each one?
Something like that.
Okay. His spine, not very good. There's a few things wrong with that. I won't get into the details. I believe this is a new hip.
New hip.
New hip.
Kmart, $12.99.
I thought we were only going to get a couple months use of it, but he's still going. But by all medical reasons, he shouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that he does. And before we get into what he can actually do, I want to show you some of the things. So I'm just going to throw punches at him, and he's going to take care of them as best he can. Now, this is not choreographed. We did not practice this. He was unaware that he was going to jump on camera. But we're trying to make a point here, folks. All right? Good?
I'm good.
All right. Okay. Okay, I think that's more than enough examples because it started getting scary. All right. So what happened then? I tried to punch Rick, and he defended himself, or more importantly, he protected himself. Now, did he have to think about where his feet were? No. Did he know what I was going to throw at him? No. But yet you saw his hands and his feet move at the same time, but we're doing different things. You weren't stepping and punching or blocking.
No.
You just moved. It didn't matter which foot started or which foot it ended with. He understood where he was strongest mechanically. He could feel the energy that I was throwing at him at any given point, and he moved as he needed to a place where he'd be safest, which is usually close by. In all three instances,
And let me make a point of something that needs to be said. When you're in a boxing ring, right, they have certain footwork, right? They will do a certain thing.
whether it's
right, they're doing this.
traditional or southpaw,
Right.
but it's one in front
But
of you.
it's right in the way they move, because they're in a ring where it's controlled. There's a referee,
Somebody to stop
somebody that, whatever, right?
Yeah,
But what we were doing here is almost just a street fight. You were just coming at me to come at me.
that's all it was.
And I just do whatever I do because we weren't trying to box.
No.
So that should, again, and I point that out and I stress that because I could have easily we could have just went back and forth like boxers would or whatever, or
and played patty
a
cake.
choreographed thing or whatever and whatnot. But he's trying to make a point of, I just let my body do what it needs to do or what it feels to do naturally.
And that's the point of everything that we do. It should eventually become natural. And again, whether that's derived through years and years of repetition or repetition of the idea in your own mind. Because again, the clearer it becomes in your head, the quicker your body is going to be able to do it. And if it's not broken down and explained, well, then you're learning something completely new. And until somebody makes those connections between what you've already been doing and what you're attempting to learn, they're not going to mix together. And this is what Rick did, and why I wanted to point him out is because as messed up as he is physically, he is still a force to be reckoned with. Not because he's going to last 12 rounds in a ring. That's not the point. The point is he's trying to survive a violent onslaught. And if all he needs to do is just move enough, fiercely enough, strong enough to get out of that situation, then that's all he needs. And that doesn't come by repetition because he doesn't have the time to spend those years developing the physicalities to go along with it. But he has enough time to think prior to getting into a situation on what is the best things that he can do at his state and whatever his body is at that time to survive that situation.
Yeah, and I'm going to do something that I didn't realize I'm going to do, and it just dawned on me. As a beginning student, our students are taught an exercise. In this particular exercise, they're just stretching exercise. And in the course of time, as they move on and they progress in our system, they start to realize those exercises are actual strikes they would actually do. But because we use it as an exercise, as a training tool, we automatically, and here's the exercise itself. So what I'm going to do is, this is just a stretching exercise. Like Nain says, I'm going to just straddle my knees and bend them a bit, and I'm going to stretch. And as I'm coming back, I'm going to take a strike. Now I'm stretching to the other side. Then I stretch back. Then I stretch forward again. Then I come back. Then I do it on the opposite side. Again, I stretch. As I'm stretching, I'm striking out. Again, I'm getting a nice full stretch.
Yeah, stretching the
I
joints.
stretch here. I stretch that out. And I come back, and we're back to here. But if you notice that particular exercise, are actual things that I do. So my brain, even though I wasn't told this was a combative exercise or that we're going to use this in our fight, in my head, it was just an exercise that I do to stretch out.
And that's how we teach the movements to become natural in each student.
Now, all of a sudden, I'm using that exercise as my combative stuff.
Because again, your brain can only do one thing at a time.
Right.
And if it's told to do something that it has no reference to whatsoever, it's that much harder for you to pick up on it and learn. But if you're told something as simple as an exercise, I don't care how overweight you are, I don't care how unhealthy you are, you at least know what an exercise is. And if the exercise comes easy to you, you're much more likely to pick it up and do it. And more importantly, your body will learn what's happening long before you're even aware that it can be something so much more.
There you go. Here you go.
All right.
You're done with me?
We're done with you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. So yes, it's all important. And even when we walk, none of us ever stay stiff up here as our feet move. There's always a natural motion between your shoulders, between your upper body and your lower body. And the more connections you can make between what you do in regular life, in everyday life, and what you do in your studies, well, the quicker you're going to pick up on things. And more importantly, the quicker you're going to pick up on things your way. Because it all is up here. And if it makes sense to you, you're going to make it happen physically. If it doesn't, it's going to take you that much longer. So, thank you folks for joining me on this Nain short. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Time for me to go. Oh wait, 1, 2, 3, cut!